get started and hopefully it'll work.
Okay, so my name is Tana Williams, and I'm from Albertson. My goal tonight is to share knowledge with you, and by knowledge I mean information as well as experience. So I haven't been doing this very long. It's only been a couple years, but I have learned a lot in those couple years. I want to start with this quote: "Convince a man against his will, he's of the same opinion." Mary Wollstonecraft. So, no matter what we've learned here tonight, we always want to honor people's agency. So we don't want to go be, we don't want to be pushy. We can't be pushy. Herbal healing is not for everybody, and that's okay. That's okay. So, and I completely can understand that. My background is nursing. I've been a nurse for the last 20 years. I did 10 years of med surg, and then I did 8 years of psychiatric. Then I took 2 years to be home with my children, and I have in the last 2 years studied nursing. The last 2 years, which that's what I do now. Um, and now I go on pediatrics. So I put a few scriptures up here about herbs because scriptures are so important to us. And the Lord mentions herbs several times in the scriptures. We had, I had a good visit with our bishop and his wife this past weekend, and she made mention of her dad passing over, and knew that the Lord put everything that we needed on this earth with us. And I truly believe that. Why would he put us on this earth without giving us everything we need?
My grandma used to always say there's a cure for everything, right?
That's so true. Oh. Okay. It skipped past the floor. It skipped past my Florence Nightingale. Florence Nightingale was known as the mother of nursing. So if you want to look at your feet, look right at that. It's right at his starting point. And acknowledges her. So she said, "Were there none who were discontented with what they have, the world would never reach anything better." During the Crimean War in 1854, Nightingale brought 38 volunteer nurses to care for British soldiers in Scutari, the hospital with the highest mortality rate from wounds and more. They had 10 times more death from dysentery, typhus, typhoid, cholera, and various other infections. Through thoroughly improving the physical conditions of the environment, purifying the water, and giving nourishing food, Nightingale was able to lower the mortality rate from 50% to 2%. And this was 74 years before antibiotics were invented. Isn't that amazing? Amazing. Our bodies are amazing. If we give them the right conditions, they can heal. We live in different times and different circumstances, but that fact is still the same. If we give our bodies the right conditions, they can heal. I was friends with a surgeon who proved that fact to me one time by taking off a third of my husband's tissue. And I could take a Q-tip and go from the top of my husband's foot all the way through to the bottom of my husband's foot. It was amazing. So I packed him up and took him out of state for 3 months because he works for himself, and so if he had stayed here, he would have been on that foot, and it would have been a lot longer healing time. And I took care of it. I gave him the right conditions to heal. 3 months later, we came back, went back to the surgeon's office, different surgeon because he was a wound specialist, and he told me, "Wow, this looks great." He said, "While you were gone," and I said, "Nobody." He said, "Tana, that was taking a chance." I gave him the right conditions. He healed. Now, I'm not telling everybody else to go do that. But amazing thing that they later, that hospital that Florence Nightingale was at was actually built on the side of a swamp. And when they drained that swamp later, they found a dead horse and a dead dog in that swamp that they had been taking the water out to feed these poor soldiers. It's amazing that the mortality rate was only 50%. So what I want to do, Florence Nightingale, she used several different factors to help heal those soldiers. She used food, wholesome nutrition. She took them outside. She gave them fresh air. She purified their water before she gave it to them. All those things are very important pillars that she built their health on. And so there are several things that I want to talk about that can also be very good for our bodies to start implementing for healing. Nasal breathing is something I want to talk about. In a single breath, more molecules of air will pass through your nose than all the grains of sand on all the world's beaches. Trillions and trillions of them. Isn't that amazing? That's a lot. Inside the nose, working together, the different areas of turbinates compete to leak, slow, and pressurize air so that the lungs can accept more oxygen. This is why nasal breathing is far more healthy and efficient than breathing through the mouth. Your nose is a miraculous thing. It makes the air that we take in exactly what it needs to do. Mouth breathing causes the body to lose 40% more water than nasal breathing. One of the many benefits is that the sinuses release a huge boost of nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator, a molecule that plays an essential role in increasing circulation and delivering oxygen to cells. Immune function, weight, circulation, mood, and more can be heavily influenced by the amount of nitric oxide in your body. Nasal breathing can boost nitric oxide by 6-fold, letting the body absorb about 18% more oxygen. There's a great book that I do not have on my table because I have it on my Kindle, but it's called Breathe, and it's by James Nestor, and it's one of the recommended books. But it is a wonderful book. The guy who wrote it was having some breathing problems, and he did a experiment with another man where they went in and they had their sinuses plugged for 10 days by a nasal surgeon. And the nasal surgeon did a lot of experiments, and he took tissue samples and of all the mucus and stuff that was there. And then 10 days later, I think it was 10, they went back and they had everything removed and they did more tissue samples. Then they did 10 days of mouth breathing, and they focused on the differences and the changes. And afterwards, the physician took samples again, and they learned so much that it's amazing the difference in how the man felt by breathing through his nose. In Genesis, when it talks about the Lord breathing air into Adam, where does he do it? Through his nostrils. There are different things that you can use to help train your body to breathe through your nose, because we have so many mouth breathers today. This is just a thing that you can pick up and buy, or you can use regular, like a hospital tape. Some people tape from here to here, and they'll do it for maybe an hour a day just to see how their body, how many times they kind of want to open their mouth, and they'll do that, and they'll keep increasing the increments of time. Then they may do it overnight until you train your body to breathe through your nose. And actually, you can even change the structure of your face over time just by nose breathing.
Do you recommend a neti pot?
A neti pot, I actually brought one. Congested in their nose area is something called nose ointment, and it's just a clear ointment, and it smells like wintergreen. It smells great, but you just stab a Q-tip in it and rub it around on the cream, and then you just take it and rub it around in your nose, and almost instantly after you breathe in through that, you're feeling your sinuses open up. It's a great It's Dr. Christopher's nose ointment.
And where do you find this?
You can find it at Amazon. Amazon. That's where I bought this, sorry. I don't think the Health Habit, there's a Health Habit in Kinston and Goldsboro. I don't think he has that, but I could be wrong. But I bought that at Amazon. And then the next thing I want to talk about is long, slow, deep breathing exercises. It's good to not breathe fast. If you're a fast breather, it's good to train your body to take deeper breaths. They say the perfect breath is about 5.5 seconds in and then 5.5 seconds out. I don't know why that's the perfect breath. I'm not a scientist, but they just say that's what they say. If the sinuses are clogged with mucus, sniffing golden seal powder or cayenne powder can help to clear the sinuses. And golden seal is a superlative tonic to mucus relaxed. So all you do is you take a little bit of that powder, and you just put it right here in the little pouch of your hand, and just put it up there and you sniff it. I have not done that before because I don't have any sinus problems that go that bad. They say it works really good. Carl Stowe was a choral conductor in the 1940s and a medical anomaly. He trained runners for the 1968 Olympics, and they won 12 medals, and most of them won gold. And they did so without oxygen before or after their tournaments, which back then was unheard of. He worked at VA hospitals to help patients get rid of emphysema. And he didn't get rid of the emphysema. He helped the patients learn how to open up their lungs, more of their lungs. So it kind of bypassed the emphysema because they had more chest extensions. So there are different ways that you can look at to breathe. One of them is called the Buteyko breathing. Wim Hof is another one that you can look on YouTube and find several different videos on how to breathe like that. There are, I think somebody broke the record in free diving. They went down, how many feet was it? 344 feet, and stayed down for 9 minutes. So you can train your lungs. It takes effort, but you can train your lungs to expand a lot quicker if you work at it.
The pearl divers do that a lot.
Singing benefits. I thought this was interesting. This is something that I learned over the summer. Different sound vibrations can do different things for your body. So singing the short A sound, like ah, for 2 to 3 minutes can help banish the blues. It forces oxygen into the blood, which signals the brain to release endorphins. The long E sound boosts awareness. The short E sound stimulates your thyroid. The long O sound stimulates the pancreas. And the double O sound activates your spleen, which can help production of white blood cells and stimulating your immune system. I thought that was really interesting. So singing, we all know, can give your lungs a workout. It's great for circulation. Sunshine. UVB rays from the sun touch the skin and can burn a form of cholesterol under the skin to vitamin D. The darker the skin, the more sun you will need to get vitamin D, which helps convert calcium into fat. Calcium will then be able to bring all the other minerals with it into the cell. 4 hormones impacted by the sun: serotonin is released, which elevates your mood. Epithalamin, arginine vasopressin, I'm sorry y'all, this is a long topic, which is a natural painkiller, and melatonin, which improves sleep. We need about 15 minutes a day from the sun. Otherwise, a lot of people, especially in northern environments where it gets colder, they get that a lot of people have sunglasses. They love to use sunglasses when they go outside because Okay, so another thing that I've really learned the importance of is water. There's a book that I have, and this one's a different one, but it's by the same man. The one on here is You're Not Sick, You're Thirsty. Water from Mountains Can Save Your Life. He's written a few more. Um, the man that wrote it is a doctor, and he wound up in a prison camp in a prison. And the fellow prisoners there found out that he was a doctor, and so when they would get sick, they would all come to him and they would ask him what to do. Well, I mean, he was a fellow prisoner, so he didn't have anything. And so he would do the best that he could. He would say, go drink a glass of water and come back and see me. You know, I mean, what else was he supposed to do? But he realized over time the water was helping these people. He'd ask them later, how are you doing? And they would say, you know, that water helped. And so he started documenting what his findings were. And I want to say it was Iran that he was in. When they went to go try to execute him, he petitioned. He says, I'm doing a medical trial here. And he showed them what he was doing, and they were so impressed by what the information that he was gathering that they didn't kill him. They let him stay per his request and continued to finish his medical school. And the findings he published in this book, as well as the rest of his life, he spent focusing on the benefits that your body can get just by water. Blood is normally about 94% water when the body is fully hydrated. Inside cells of the body, there should ideally be about 75% water. The osmotic difference between the two creates an osmotic flow into cells rotating rhythm and stimuli, producing hydroelectric energy. This is important, only water that is free and can move about, which is the water that you drink, generates this energy. Some people say, oh, I'm getting a lot of water, I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, I'm getting my water through that, but that's not giving your body all the water it needs. Any excess water is passed out of the body, carrying with it the toxic waste from the cells. It is not stored, typically. When cells are dehydrated, cells become depleted of energy and do not function at their best ability. Then they have to depend more on energy generated from food that is consumed instead of water. So I say typically because people who are in renal failure and cardiac failure, they have to rely on water pretty significantly. Water is one of the best anticoagulants if you're having a lot of blood clots. I took a class from somebody over the summer. She would take blood samples for her class and look at it under the microscope, and she would see all their red blood cells kind of clump, 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 clump right on top of each other. And after she taught the class on water and they started drinking the water like they were supposed to, at the end of the classes, she would take another blood sample and let them see it. And you could see their red blood cells were spread out and apart. They were no longer all together. So drinking water and being adequately hydrated can help a lot. If you're having a lot of joint pain, hydration can help because of the lubrication around your joints is supposed to be a fluid area. If your body is dehydrated, it's going to take some of that lubrication from that and give it to an area that needs it more. So it's very important to stay hydrated. It helps with pain. It can help kidney and gallstones. They build up, they're sediment. If your body is adequately hydrated, it will help wash those areas away and you won't have kidney stones and gallstones as bad.
Does it matter if it's tap water or does it need to be filtered?
Okay, I'm going to say if you have city water, I would get a purified water because of the chemicals inside of it. If you have well water, it's the same thing as you test for nitrogen. You just take it first, and it works fine. Every 24 hours, the body recycles the equivalent of 40,000 glasses of water to maintain its normal physiological functions. Within this pattern of water metabolism and its recycling process, and depending on environmental conditions, the body becomes short of about 6 to 10 glasses of water each day. This deficit has to be supplied to the body every day, or the body must compensate in some way, leading to damage of different systems and organs of the body. And that's what this doctor was finding. A lot of gastric problems were coming from dehydration, a lot of headaches coming from dehydration. If they fixed the dehydration problem, most of the time the problem got better. Your thirst sensation as you age decreases. You cannot rely on the I'm not thirsty, so I'm not going to drink idea, because your body needs that water.
Isn't it like once you're thirsty, you're already way down?
You're already way down once you're thirsty. Water should be taken in 8 or 16-ounce portions spaced throughout the day, and ideally it's taken at least 30 minutes before you eat and 2 to 2.5 hours after you eat, so that it is not all getting involved in your gastric process. Okay, so your body, it needs water about 30 minutes before you eat, and to finish the digestive process about 2.5 hours afterwards it needs some water. And if you do that, then the free water that you're taking between meals will go where it needs to go. It will go to your cells, which will help hydrate your body like it needs to. And when you drink a lot of water when you're eating, it dilutes your gastric acids. And that makes it harder for your body to be able to digest that food. Size does matter for water. My kids, maybe, who are about half my size, they need only about 4 cups of water a day. So I'll tell them, drink half a cup of water. I need about 8 cups. My husband's 6'6". If he was a healthy man, he would be drinking about 12 cups of water a day. So gauge your size and how much blood. He's got some blood in his body today. So water loss in a day, this is why you need to drink that much. Your kidneys, 1.5 quarts. Your skin, half of a quart. Your colon, 0.3 quarts. Your lungs, 0.2 quarts for respiration. To a total of 2.5 quarts a day. So that's how much your body is losing through those organs. So you're sweating, you're peeing it out, you're pooping it out, you can put a mirror in front of you and you'll see you're losing water from that when you see the fog on the mirror. If you add a crystal of salt to your water or put it under your sink, drink. It'll give your body the minerals it needs with the water to help the cell get the minerals in where they need to be. So I brought a couple different kinds of salt. Table salt is not good for you. None of it's highlighted. It's something that your body kind of needs to do to clean itself. So you're not getting much of that. Celtic sea salt is one type of salt. It has many different minerals in it. It has at least 3 magnesiums. Magnesium is part of water. It helps really good with your sinuses. This is Redmond sea salt. This is acquired from the Great Salt Lake. So I like Redmond because I don't have to worry about the ocean getting tied in with this. But I say you don't want this mixed with this stuff. Also, Himalayan salt. I didn't bring any of that because most everybody in here, I feel like, has Himalayan salt.
Where did you find those?
Health Habit. Yeah, well, I love Amazon. Well, it's just convenient.
Well, we live in a small community, so sometimes.
Yes.
These things can be hard to find, but you found those at
Health Habit in Goldsboro. They have a store, and they have a Health Habit pharmacy.
we have horses, so
A little crystal. It doesn't take a lot. A little crystal of it. It's a little bit coarser salt than your table salt, and it has minerals. You know, back in World War II, Navy surgeons, when they would run out of plasma to give their soldiers, they would take the sea salt and they would dilute it, and they would give that in the form of a transfusion, because sea salt is so equivalent proportionally to the minerals that our body needs, which is why it works so good at helping us maintain our health. So a lot of people will say, well, you need this mineral, you need this mineral. Really, the minerals in foods and in the water, the sea salt, it all works together so much better when they're together. The Lord meant for us to not isolate the chemicals in these different plants and use it like sometimes they're used in pharmaceuticals, but they work so much better when we use them together. So, sleep. Sleep is our next topic. Insomnia is a newer illness historically. They didn't always have to suffer with insomnia a long time ago, and it's a growing problem. The pineal gland, which is located at the base of the brain, is stimulated through white dark cells. It regulates hypothalamus, arginine, basotosin, and melatonin. In summer, it releases these hormones for sleep from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. So if you're not in bed at those times, you're missing out on some of that those hormones that are helping you sleep. And in winter, it's from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. A continuous bad sleep schedule has similar effects as alcohol and drug problems. I read that anybody who is up 16, 18 hours consecutively has this, it cognitively has the same effect as being at the legal, over the legal drug limit in Wales and England. Y'all know that? If you're going on 5 to 6 hours of sleep, you're 4 times more likely to get in an accident as somebody who is not able to sleep. We have more accidents in this country from sleep deprivation than we do from drugs. So you have 90-minute sleep cycles of sleep that your body performs non-rapid eye movement and rapid eye movement. You need 8 hours of sleep per night in order to have all those functions. Did you know you can go 16 days without sleep and you will die? Sleep is very important. They quit recording in the Guinness World Book of Records sleep deprivation because they realized how dangerous it was for the people. And yet they'll take somebody that goes way high up in the atmosphere and comes down with only his body and breaks to sonic boom. And that's okay. That's safer than sleep deprivation. Who knew, right?
What if you wake up at 3 a.m.?
Good question.
Can you take a nap before that?
Naps are good. All right, so this is just going over the different functions. You get your heavier sleep earlier on in the night, and you're dreaming more later on in the morning. And they have different functions. But there are some herbal assists that you can take for helping to get back to sleep. Valerian is really very good. Chamomile is a more mild alternative to valerian because valerian is quite strong. So I would probably start with something like chamomile, especially if you're older, and work your way up as you need to. But I put several different options for people who would like to try herbal remedy for sleep. Epsom salt baths before you go to bed can be very relaxing and help with the sleep. Having the TV off a while before you go to bed will help because that stimulation. I'm somebody I can't typically get in bed and sit down at the TV because for me that keeps me awake. like it keeps my mind stimulated. Whereas, you know, some people, they're like, I can get a book and I'm out in 5 minutes. And you know your own body. You know what works for you, you know? So you have to work with that. But the important thing is try to get your sleep. It's very important. It impacts so much. There are 2 factors that help determine the sleep-wake cycle. The first is the 24-hour circadian rhythm, which works a lot with sun. And the second is a sleep pressure system, which is controlled by a chemical called adenosine, which builds up in the brain the longer you're awake. So the longer you're awake, the more adenosine you're making. And it's not on there. I'm just talking. I'm just talking. So when it peaks, you just have this irresistible urge to sleep. And we've all felt that. I know I felt it way more than I've ever needed to in life because as a night shift nurse, you struggle on the way home, okay? That's not a fun feeling at all to feel like you're going to fall asleep on the way home because you're super tired. You learn what works. I learned early on about caffeine. I learned if I drank a can of Pepsi to help me stay awake through the night, I had better do it before midnight. Because if I didn't, I would be awake long after I needed to be when I got home. And the problem with that is caffeine, it says it's the most widely used and abused psychoactive stimulant in the world. Caffeine works by successfully battling with adenosine, that hormone we were just talking about, successfully battling with adenosine for receptor sites in the brain. Once caffeine occupies these receptors, it tricks the brain into feeling alert and awake. Despite the high adenosine levels, your body continues to accumulate. Caffeine levels peak about 30 minutes after drinking or ingesting it, if you're having a whole lot of chocolate. But the half-life is 5 to 7 hours. So caffeine is gradually reduced the systemic enzyme gradually over time, and the older you get, the less efficient that your liver is at metabolizing it. So I thought this was interesting. This was a NASA study they did on spiders, giving them different stimulants. This is animal spider web, and you can just kind of see how disorganized the spider web is with all these different things. But caffeine is one of the worst disorganized ones.
How do you get a spider to drink caffeine? I wonder how they did that.
So the next thing I want to talk about is this rebounder over here in the corner. Y'all probably can't see it. Rebounding is another thing that NASA has done studies on. They found that when people do rebounding, it is more effective for their astronauts as well as it can be good for us. 10 minutes on a rebounder is the equivalent of 30 minutes of running. Plus, it is so much better for your joints because it takes the impact out of it. Love our rebounders. So there's a little trim. So the difference between a rebounder and I can't get to it from all the cords, but that some of them have the bars where you can hold on to it. But you see how the legs are not short like the mini trampolines. They're very sturdy and they're not. It's not got a spring, a metal string all around it. It has the bungees. Can you show us how it works? Now, how you want to start if you're in poor health, you want to get on there and you want to do the help thing.
Don't hit your head.
Right, Dad, show how to do the help bounce. Just get on there and do.
Which one is that?
Just.
For 10 minutes.
So you don't have to, when you're just getting started with this, if you have equilibrium problems or you have balance problems or problems moving, period. Do you see how he's doing it? His feet are not moving. His feet are not leaving the rebounder. And this is still enough to get your lymphatic system going. The more you're jumping, the higher you're jumping,
Watch your head.
the more effective those jumps are going to be at working against gravity. and opening your lymphatic gates. So your lymphatic system.
He's getting winded.
Hey, he needs that. Thank you. So rebounding is awesome. It tones up your glandular system to increase the output of your thyroid gland, pituitary gland, and your adrenals. It strengthens your heart and any other muscle. It will beat less often and become more powerful. It encourages circulation, strengthens your vessels, your arteries. It reduces elevated cholesterol and triglyceride levels, so you're giving your body the right condition. And you're not taking a medicine to do it. You're promoting body growth and repair, increasing your red bone marrow and production of your red blood cells. You're stimulating metabolism. You're enhancing your digestive and elimination processes. You're increasing your capacity for respiration. We need all of these things, and this rebounder miraculously can do it. And like I said, it's easy on your joints. So a 50-year-old typically has a 40% decrease in lung capacity. At 80 years old, you have a 60% decrease in lung capacity. Repeated rebounding aerobics accomplishes more muscular movements of the diaphragm, which is helps with chest expansion. There aren't a whole lot of things that you can do to support your diaphragm muscle to expand. It helps with it. You can't work it out like you're working your arm, but rebounding helps support it. Okay, I'm going to move on to something else. So listen to your body. If you're having a problem or a symptom, your body is trying to tell you that there is a problem. I've heard it said that when you're having a problem, it's kind of like you're having a fire in the house, right? Are you going to put the fire out, or are you going to smash all of the fire alarms so you don't have to hear them anymore? And they equated that with pharmaceuticals, because pharmaceuticals, they treat symptoms. They don't heal the body. I'm not trying to tell everybody not to take medicine. Please don't say that I'm not doing that. There is a place for medicine. Some medicines can stop cold turkey, some of them definitely can't. I'm not the one to tell you which ones to do that. So, why don't doctors know about herbs? They don't teach herbs in medical school, because you can grow herbs in your yard. They cannot make money off the herbs that you're growing in your yard. And so therefore, pharmaceutical companies, agricultural companies, they are huge money industries, and if it doesn't benefit them, they're going to shut it down. Okay? And that's all I'm going to say about that. So herbal healing timeline, it takes a while for your body to show symptoms that you're sick. A lot of times it's kind of like you're doing something wrong, you keep doing something wrong, the straw that breaks the camel's back is when you finally feel that symptom. So it takes time for you to reverse that damage too. So just because you're going to get a rebounder and start drinking water doesn't mean that you take it right away. Just like the sinuses, you have to allow for a time to heal. It's not a one and done deal if you don't drink the sinuses. You're trying to heal the body. So typically they say for chronic illness, 1 week of herbal use for every 1 month the symptom appeared will typically be a timeline. Now some people, they'll see a year of illness and have only 1 month of treatment. I was telling somebody earlier, we have a brother in our ward who has had a knee pain and a limp for the last year and a half, and I made some herbal comfrey salve, and he put it on for 2 days, and he has not had pain. As long as he puts that on there, completely takes the pain away. He's not needing it. To me, that's a miracle, because that worked very fast. But some people are more responsive to different herbs than others. There are common allergens that may be causing problems for you, and most of the time they say, I know one doctor speculated that 60% of people have an allergy to something. Doctors are not trained in allergy medication and allergy, picking up the fact that you're having an allergy. information on how to make herbal teas, how to make compresses, poultice, plasters. I will say for the poultice, I did bring. So for a poultice, what you're going to do, and I've done quite a few of these, you're going to get a thing of, what I did is I just cleaned an old sheet and I tore it up into bits and pieces. And this is, we're going to pretend it's a nice square. But what you're going to do is you're going to lay it down and you're going to put your herb in the middle. Okay? And you're going to moisten your herb with some warm water so that the water will help get the medical constituents out. This is going to give it a smoothness. And you're going to fold that north, east, south, west. Just fold it all in a nice box where the herb is in the middle. And it makes it nice and not messy. When you put it on the plate or spot like this, so you're going to be able to get it laying on your plate, take the scrape out and just wipe it right down for a couple hours and take it off.
Have you ever used castor oil for your herbs? Is castor oil that actually help with the disease?
Yes, and coconut oil and olive oil, a lot of your oils. But yes, love castor oil. Castor oil, I know I'm running out of time, but castor oil repeatedly put on a spot will help dissolve cysts, tumors, any abnormal growth. If you have had a lot of abdominal surgeries and you're having a lot of scar tissue and adhesions, you can put castor oil on there and you can make a compress of it. And the best way to do that is a peri pad. You saturate the peri pad, not too wet, mind you, but enough that it's going to be moist when you put it on there. You don't have to keep putting it on there. That might last a long time where it's wet. You just put it on there and keep it on there for about 5 minutes. And take it off and repeat the next day until your problem is resolved. And that castor oil is strong stuff. It will help dissolve that abnormal growth.
Skin tags, maybe?
Skin tags, yes, it works for skin tags. Okay, so I didn't. I need to. You chop it up. So the finer you chop it, you're increasing the surface area of the herb. And so when you're increasing the surface area of the herb, you're increasing the amount of medicine that is able to come out in that herb. And so it works better if you chop it up. And a blender can do that. If you put it in there, like I love to use comfrey. Comfrey is an herb that I'm going to talk about in just a minute, but it is fantastic for healing sprains, strains, broken bones. It's great for inflammation. If you're having arthritis, put it on there. Okay, let's see. There are lots of different things that you can buy. The nice thing about herbs is you can take them in various different forms. You can take them in tinctures, you can take them as teas, you can take it as, like we were talking about, the poultice, so whatever you're comfortable with. You can take it as an herbal salve, which is something that I really like, where you're infusing it in oil, and then you're melting beeswax with that once you do it, and it's making a nice little ointment that you can rub on there, and you can take it with you wherever you need to go, and it's nice and convenient. The same can be said of glycerites and tinctures. And I put different typical doses of acute problems and for health problems. This is only your single sheets because it didn't print with your. So those slides that were just on there are your single sheets. Okay, so when I first got into herbs, this class is going by so fast with the time, y'all. What got me into herbs was yarrow. My dad came over to my house a couple years ago, and he had had an accident with his hand. And he was bleeding through his thumb, and he says, tell me if I need to go to the hospital. I need to know if I need to get stitches. And I looked at that thing, and boy, it was bleeding good. And my mom says, here, put this on there. And she had a pill. And I said, well, what is it? And she says, yarrow. And watch what and dumped it on there, and it quit bleeding, which amazed me because I was looking at his thumb and I'm seeing a severed artery, and that artery's going spurting blood at me. And having worked in the operating room, you usually have to cauterize that, and that will stop the bleeding. Yarrow, just as fast as cauterization. But the blood bubbled up. And I would say if you have a major wound, put some yarrow or cayenne in it and go to the hospital. That will slow the bleeding and get you where you need to go. But if it's a minor wound, the yarrow will stop the bleeding. It scabs up with your blood, which is fine, and it makes a tiny little scar. And then if you're really worried about the scar, you can put some nice little herbal ointment on there, and that will help the scar be even smaller. It's so easy to just grab it and dump it right on there, and taking that problem away. And if they're standing and they're scared and they fall on the floor because they're fainting, this happened. True story. True story. While they're down on the floor, you put that yarrow on there and you bandage it up, and by the time they've come to, they're okay. Saves a trip to the emergency room.
And when you take that bandage off in 24 hours, the wound will look like it's a week old.
Yeah.
It won't be red or anything.
You can get that at the Health Habit or Amazon.
And it's only like $6.
It's very cheap. Look, that's a cheap fix for an emergency room visit. Plus, it saves all the time.
A lot of kids is a good thing to have.
You got a lot of kids or an accident-prone neighbor.
What did Brigham Young say?
Oh yeah. What did Brigham Young say?
Fortunate is the person that knows how to use.
Fortunate is the person that knows how to use yarrow in the last days. Now, we could go a lot into that, but yarrow has got other properties besides the anticoagulant, and thank you. It's a diaphoretic, it's anti-infective, it stops bleeding, it stimulates circulation, and it's antispasmodic. So, should we have a plague in the last days that is hemorrhagic, yarrow would be an excellent thing to have on hand.
You can take it internally.
You can take it internally. You can if you're having a fever that will not break, you can run a hot bath, and put a bag of yarrow in there with it and let it steep in the tub and get in there, and your fever will break. Or you can drink yarrow tea while you're in there. Your fever will break.
I used that on my forehead when I smashed into my patio and it's covered in blood.
Yeah. And you didn't bruise much from it either after that.
No, got a little scar.
Yeah.
What makes it scar worse than just the regular
Scar?
You're saying it scars less.
It scars less. It scars less.
Oh, it scars
It's
less.
anti-inflammatory, and it stops the bleeding. Yarrow is great. Comfrey is another great thing. I put a comfrey burn paste recipe on here for anybody that should burn themselves. This is a great recipe. I know somebody in Missouri that was having radiation, and she had horrible radiation burns from that. Use this comfrey burn paste, which is Dr. Christopher recipe, and it healed that up. This is the comfrey ointment recipe for the one I was telling you about that I give to the man in our ward that had the
Knee problem.
knee problem for a year and a half, and he put this on there for 2 days. And no pain.
Can we grow comfrey around?
You can grow comfrey. Yep, I've got 7 comfrey bushes.
Bushes.
Yeah, they start out small, but they get about, I think, 4 feet by 6 feet. So, and they can spread. So, but it's a good thing to have that problem with. Okay. Yep, it's great for fertilizer. It's great for mulch. Gardens love it. Garlic is wonderful. Diuretic, expectorant, antispasmodic. I love garlic because for my kids, when they get chest colds or sicknesses or anything, I'll take it and I'll make a goot, which I put the recipe in there for that. And I can rub that on the bottom of their feet, and within an hour their breath will smell like they've been eating garlic knots. So you know that their body is metabolizing it because it's going from their feet and it's coming out through their breath. So they're getting that antibacterial all through their bloodstream. So this is a strep throat, sore throat remedy, and it does work. I had strep throat last year at a horrible time. My husband was having surgery at Rex Hospital, and I wound up getting strep throat right in the middle of it, and I felt so bad. Whipped up some of this. It helped tremendously. As well as this throat coat formula. Tea, you can buy this at Food Line, and it is an awesome tea. If you're really having problems, I would steep 2 bags instead of 1, and it soothes your throat.
Is that, I'm sorry, is that the licorice root?
It's the licorice root. I think it has marshmallow, fennel, lots of good stuff. Slippery elm. Throat coat. Tea.
Comfort. Throat comfort.
Throat.
Throat comfort.
Throat comfort. Sorry, there's another one that's throat coat.
Oh.
Alright. And that's the goot recipe. That's very simple to make. So if you want to make a ointment. And you can rub that if you're having a sinus infection. You can take it and rub it in your sinuses with a Q-tip. If you're having a chest cold, rub it on your chest. For kids, put it on their feet if they don't want it anywhere else. Cayenne pepper works great for circulation problems. It can help stop heart attacks. Dr. Christie said he's given cayenne tea, and within 3 minutes it will stop the heart attack. So that's another one of those things like a bad cut. I will put the yarrow on it. Well, if you're having a heart attack or anything like that, take you some cayenne, then go to the hospital. Do something to help, and go to the hospital. And Activate charcoal. I wanted to talk about Activate charcoal. I made this up this week. It's very simple to make. Activate charcoal is not the same thing as grilling charcoal. It is produced from the controlled burning of wood or bone and is then subjected to the action of oxidizing gas, such as a steam or air, at elevated temperatures. This process enhances the absorption power of charcoal by developing an extensive internal network of fine pores in the material. So, just a caution that it may cause irritation in the bowel and certain inflammatory states. Very It assists with diarrhea. If you have food poisoning from something, you can take a couple of tablets of charcoal and it'll nip it in the bud most of the time. You can buy charcoal in tablet, powder, capsule. So this is powder. I took some of this and mixed it with some psyllium husk and some water. And what that does is it gives it a form. So, and then you can put it in the freezer. And when you take it out of the freezer, you can cut it to size of wherever you need it. So it absorbs poisons. So if you get stung, or venoms, if you get stung by something, this would be a nice, easy thing. You can put it on tick bites. It's any tick bites. If it's Lyme disease and they get that bullseye, put it on there. It will help absorb the poison from that tick bite. Ingested poison, use approximately 8 to 10 times the estimated weight of the poison as the dose of the charcoal. So, I've seen, my husband's very prone to wish I had known this 20 years ago, and we could have avoided a whole lot of surgeries in the past. But the last time he had cellulitis on his toes and it looked like it was getting to be osteo, we put some activated charcoal on there. Within 3 days, the problem was gone. There's a sister in our ward that has some cellulitis on her foot, and she's been to the doctor and got 3 different rounds of antibiotics. It has not helped. And then she calls me, and I say, okay, well, let's try some activated charcoal. Within a week of using activated charcoal, her toes no longer red, it is no longer swollen, and it has started to raise muscle cells in her toes. Activated charcoal.
You did that right there.
I did this.
You did it
just a
like
couple
that.
days.
Okay,
Yep.
so it wasn't.
Now for her, we did use hydrotherapy, which I can talk about really quick first. So what I've had her do is, that's why I brought these 2 little buckets. Hydrotherapy is very effective for wounds. So what you do is you take hot water, as hot as you can stand it. Don't burn yourself, and if you're diabetic and you have nerve damage, then you might not want to do this because you don't want to cause any problems. But you're going to soak the area for 3 minutes in the hot water. Then you're going to take that and you're going to immerse it in some ice water for 30 seconds. And you're going to do that cycle 3 times. And what that does is it brings the blood to that area and circulates that blood very good. You know how when you get in a hot bath, you have that stimulating effect for about that first 3 minutes, and then you feel like, oh, this is nice, I think I can go to sleep. Your body slows down. And then when you jump in a cold pool, it takes you about 30 seconds, and then you're like, oh, I can breathe again. It's taking that stimulating effect from the hot and the cold, and it's stimulating your blood to that area, which brings the oxygen to that area more than it would have been. And the red blood cells are there bringing the oxygen and the nutrients. The white blood cells are also coming, which is taking the infection away. So using both of those things, the hydrotherapy and the activated charcoal for her has done, but I mean, it's been months, and it's finally, with that, getting better.
So she's been doing that and then putting
The charcoal on afterwards. Yep. And that, once the blood has stimulated that area, put that charcoal on there, and it draws out the oxygen. So I'm out of time. And I'm sorry I did not get through. You're gonna give me a bonus 10?
I'll stay all
Hour and a half.
night.
Okay, well.
You said an hour and a half, so we still got a half hour.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say I'm not gonna be offended if anybody does have to leave, but I can keep going. Okay? But I'm not gonna be offended at all if anybody needs to leave.
Okay, we'll take a deep breath.
Start again.
Drink some of my bad coaching.
What is that?
It's her throat goes.
I'm not used to talking so long at a time.
Go.
So I made some of this because it is soothing and it helps just in case I needed it, because I didn't want to get up here and start coughing really bad.
So
I
that's the
can feel
brand
my
name.
throat is starting to get dry.
Doesn't necessarily have goji berry. That's the brand name. I take it. Yeah. I think I've had some of that.
You want a 5-minute intermission?
No, I'll keep going. I think I'll be all right. So ginger. Ginger internally can assist with nausea, indigestion. It warms up your body if it's cold. I told you how to make ginger tea. It helps with acid reflux problems. I'll also say that if you're having a lot of gastric reflux and you're taking antacids, I have learned that most people do not have more stomach acid than they need, they have less. So taking antacids is actually harming your body more than it's helping your body. What you need is more stomach acid. So do not drink a lot of water or anything else with your meals to dilute your stomach acids. And also, if you'll drink some cayenne or ginger before your meals, that will stimulate the production of your stomach acids. so that it will give your body what it needs to be able to digest what you're eating.
We don't have ginger.
You don't have
It's
ginger?
not in our thing.
No.
I'm sorry. Ginger.
Oh.
I tried to catch it. Yeah, it might be on one of the single sheets. No? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's okay.
You can take ginger and, like the poultice that we did with the comfrey that I showed you, just put it in the middle of it. You take ginger, which you can freeze ginger, because it's not always in season that you buy it at the grocery store. So you can freeze ginger and bring it back out when you need it.
Ginger.
Yeah, that's the first ginger in fire cider. It's great in fire cider too. But you can grate the ginger and put it as a poultice on your knee or whatever, and it will heat up in about 30 minutes or so. And you keep it on there for 2 hours, 2 all night, however long you can stand it. But I'm telling you, I've tried this because when I was running before I was rebounding, my knee was giving me some problems, and I said, well, I'm going to try this ginger. And I put some on my knee, and boy, that stuff heats up. And it draws the inflammation out into the ginger, so it does help. But when it heats up, it will act as a drawing the heat out. So you're gonna do the same thing I told you about. You're gonna wrap it up 4 corners and then wrap it up with some saran wrap, and it will relax your muscles, reduce the pain. It helps with arthritis. It helps with gout. Never reuse a poultice except for the one I told you, the castor oil. That's the one you can reuse. That one's fine. But when you're doing poultices, always use fresh material, especially something that's going to be drawing out like your activated charcoal. You're not going to have an effective result. On there because it's so hard. And I said, what? And he said, well, it's been here and it's been absorbing odors because that's what I heard that it was good for. And I said, whoa, don't use that. Get some fresh. Because if it's already absorbed a lot, it's not going to be effective at absorbing more. For the ginger, because it is so hot, if it's overused and blisters occur, you can do a grated potato poultice over it, and it will help heal the blisters. And a potato poultice, so these are things that you have at home. Potatoes, gingers, is that on there or not? No. I apologize, y'all. So you just grate, it doesn't take a lot, 2 teaspoons of potato, and you spread it out over your poultice. And it's great for tissue inflammation, drawing out splinters. Some people have used it for blood poisoning, and it works. I will tell you, when my husband had his cellulitis, I went to the potato first because I wanted to experiment and see how it worked. And it didn't work. But I believe it is because he has been on so many antibiotics through his lifetime. And so he's probably, when he gets an infection, it just goes super bad. Boom. So his had to be the activated charcoal. But if you don't have activated charcoal on hand, try the potato.
The theory might be, you know how when we're trying to numb something, maybe that's the thing, is that it was just too infected.
It may be.
Yeah.
But there are stories of people who have had huge blood poisoning from stepping on a nail, and it just gets big, and you see the red streak going up the leg, and they've used the potato poultice for 24 hours, and you'll see the swelling come back down, you'll see the red streak come back down, but they probably have not had as many antibiotics as my husband has in his lifetime.
So you use the same teaspoon for 24 hours?
2 teaspoons for... I would rotate it, so maybe every 4 hours.
Okay.
Change it every 4, and depending on how bad your problem is, you can change it out. The more often you changing your poultices, the more effective you're going to be. Not that you're going to want to sit there and do it every 30 minutes, but it will draw more with fresh material more often, you know. So if you have welder eye blisters or pink eye, you can leave it on all night. It's very soothing. Potato blisters. Potato poultices. We've already talked about the castor oil compresses, and I've told you how to do that. And it's typically 1 week of time for the growth of the problem per 1 month. So 1 week of treatment for 1 month of problem. So if you've had a cyst for a long time, you're going to expect to have to use this for a shorter time than that, but it's still going to be a significant time. Okay, wild yam cream. I wanted to talk about wild yam cream because it is a great go-to for any female problems. If you're having any thickening of the uterus, ovarian problems, anything. Some of the Indians used this if they had any female problems at all. This was their go-to. It's not a sweet potato. There's an herb called the wild yam. So you can find, I put some brand names on here. Anna's wild yam cream is great. Moon Made wild yam. Just look at your ingredients when you're buying stuff. And there are also some for men if you're having some problems. So it has some directions. You're going to apply a dime-sized portion. It doesn't take a much, so, and I didn't bring mine, but typically it's about between this size and this size, the jar. You're going to take about a dime size, and you're going to rotate where you put it, the inner wrist, your abdomen, and your inner thighs. So you just rotate the site.
I didn't mean this to be a selfish, but I make that cream.
Awesome.
So if anybody needs any, please.
That's good that you know, y'all. Okay, so another one that I wanted to put, there are so many herbs that just knowing some of the problems that we've had and some of the ones that I've wanted to help, there are a lot of people that have miscarriages and problems hanging on to their babies before they can get them full term. Black haw bark is something that you can take that will support, nourish, relax, and heal your reproductive system. It is an excellent tonic, vents the blood circulation. All the UTI symptoms. It's anti-staph It works as a tonic to be preventative as well as to work in corrective situations. It can arrest and prevent miscarriage. Back in the days of slavery, if a slave found themselves pregnant and they did not want to be pregnant anymore, they would dig up the root of the cotton plants. And that was an abortive thing for them to do. They would make a tea out of that cotton root and they would drink it to try to stimulate an abortion. And if the master of the plantation found out about it and did not want them to have that miscarriage, he would make them drink black haw bark and it would stop the miscarriage. So it's pretty effective. It can help with deeper pain of passing a kidney stone, relaxing the ureters, which can seize up with pain. Yes. So you know about this?
Yes, ma'am.
That makes it harder and more painful to pass. I will tell you that on my tincture page, I have a formula that I made for somebody that was having a kidney stone problem, a 3 to 4 millimeter stone, and they went from having excruciating pain to, after 2 doses of it, mild. After the 3rd dose, no pain and can sleep through the night. Gravel root is a great herb to take for kidney stones. It helps dissolve inorganic matter. So most kidney stones are made from oxalate and calcium, and it will dissolve that organic. So given over time, but now you don't want to take that without something that is going to be soothing to your ureter, because if you're taking something that's moving that stone, it's going to hurt if you're not taking something that's going to soothe it. So I pair that with the marshmallow root, which is very soothing to the mucosal system and your whole body. But for that, it works wonderful. So there's a dosage on here for the black haw tincture, should anybody need that. Asthma aids, there are a couple pages of asthma aids because I know asthma is such a problem. Asthma, a lot of that stems from a dietary problem. So you're having an allergy issue, maybe dairy, you need to cut dairy out so you can because dairy can produce a lot of mucus in the body. And then that clogs up your respiratory system. So hot and cold compresses for congestion. I'm not going to read about all of the different things that I put, but I put 2 different slides. Y'all do have the asthma age, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Coconut.
I'm sorry. What is peppermint EO? Like is it oil, peppermint
Essential
extract?
oil. Yes, sorry. Essential oil is EO. Coconut oil is another great thing. You know your brain cells use 15 times more glucose than any other cell. When you are taking statins or anti-cholesterol medications, it is depriving your body of all those fat cells that your brain needs. So a lot of times the side effects of that be dementia because it's taking the glucose that your brain needs. So coconut oil bypasses your GI system, goes straight to your liver where it metabolizes it and does produce it. So it's a safe fat to take. It's monounsaturated fat. It's a healer, neuroprotective, great for any skin problems. If you have psoriasis, eczema, it will soothe those problems and help it heal. And like I said, it's fantastic for your brain.
Cooking with it or just?
Cooking with it. You can cook with it. You can take it oil pulling. If you put it in your mouth, a tablespoon of it, it seems like it multiplies when you do that because your saliva's going in there too. But if you'll do that 15 to 20 minutes a day and oil pull with it first thing in the morning, it pulls the bacteria out of your mouth. Now you want to make sure you're spitting that in the trash can and not in your sink or your toilet because at room temperature it solidifies. When it gets warmer, it melts. But so you don't want that to start clogging up the pipes and having a problem from coconut oil. So word of caution, use your trash can full.
And don't swallow it because.
And don't swallow it because once you have that oil and all that bacteria, but it also helps if you're having sinus problems or something, it will help the phlegm and stuff loosen up from sinus problems. Okay?
I'm really dumb, what does pulling mean?
Oil pulling, so
Like
so you
swishing.
just you're putting it in your mouth and you're swishing it, you're pulling it back and forth between your teeth. It's very, very good for your gums, mouth health.
Okay.
Here. You're welcome.
You said about 15 minutes?
15.
The kind that does solidify, like
yes.
essential oils has that.
I would get you can buy coconut oil that is for cooking exclusively and it's liquefied already. I would get the cold press. Anytime you buy oil, any oil, get a cold pressed organic. Did that cover it? Cold press inside. There's one more category.
Extra virgin from
Extra virgin,
oh,
yes.
yeah.
If it has that. But now with coconut oil, you don't have to really worry about the organic because the coconut shell is so thick. It's hard for pesticides to penetrate through that shell.
Yeah.
And so it's basically organic anyway by the time they get it out there. So I wouldn't spend a lot of money on the organic price tag for coconut oil. But what I would do is buy it in a glass jar. Do not buy coconut oil in a plastic because it absorbs and you don't want to take that plastic that has been absorbed from the bottle into your body.
Metal okay?
Metal, I would go with glass. And I know Aldi's has a jar about this big and it's about $5. But anything coconut, they have coconut yogurt, they have coconut milk, they have coconut water, they have coconut shreds. Every bit of it is very good for you. And it is neuro healing. So if you have a child with autism or any other neurological problems, giving them coconut oil on a regular basis will help to to soothe some of those problems and help heal it. There's a book by, I don't think I brought it.
Bruce Fife.
Bruce Fife. And he wrote, thank you, Wendy. He wrote several different books. Stop Autism Now. There's one, Stop Alzheimer's Now, because it's great for Alzheimer's too, because it's a neuro healer. Okay?
What about strokes?
Stroke?
Yeah, because I have strokes, and anything that would help that would be good.
Hydration, cayenne, and coconut oil would be great. Okay, so I put some. I probably already talked about all that for coconut oil. I think the last thing I was going to talk about before I come to my table is cream of tartar. Before the days of antibiotic, because we had a lot of problems with UTIs. I get called with UTI problems a lot. Cream of tartar is something that they used to do before the days of antibiotics. You dissolve 1 tablespoon in 8 ounces of lukewarm water. You drink it 3 times a day. You can multiply the recipe and put it in the refrigerator for up to 48 hours. Just give it a good stir before pouring it. It has been used to treat low blood pressure, but I've got the instructions for how you do that. But I had somebody that took it for a UTI, and it did fantastic at getting rid of the UTI. It took the infection and it put it right out through the gut. So they had diarrhea from it, but once that was gone, the UTI was gone. So I mean, the body finds a way. Okay, so like I said, I brought some books. There was one thing that I wanted to talk about that I did not get to talk about because I slipped over it. I skimmed over it. Can I see your? It's the chart that I have, the nutrient composition of plant and animal-based foods. Now, I probably should have done this in the middle of my presentation because this is going to be the most unpopular thing that I say tonight. And so please don't leave hating me for the information. But if you will look at this, it tells you a comparison, 500 calories of energy for plant-based foods and animal-based foods. Now, if you'll notice, there is a line for 0 under cholesterol for plant-based foods. If you have high cholesterol problems, it is coming from animal products. Period. It's not coming from your vegetables. It's not coming from your fruit. It's all coming from your meat and dairy and eggs. And I say eggs because I just read this yesterday. I did not know 1 egg has 200 milligrams or more of cholesterol, which takes up a large proportion of our 300 milligram daily recommended limit. I had no idea there was so much. When you put it in that perspective, in eggs, which
So you can get rid of the chickens.
So, and then I also wanted to point out there are so many more of these minerals and things that you need from the plant-based foods. And then if you look at the whole foods, and the animal-based foods have 0 fiber. So if you're having a lot of gastric problems and things moving, you need to decrease in your animal foods and increase in the plant-based foods. And I thought it was interesting in the Joseph Smith translation of Genesis 9:4-5, it says, "But the blood of all flesh which I have given you for meat shall be shed upon the ground, which taketh life thereof. And the blood ye shall not eat. And surely blood shall not be shed, only for meat to save your lives. And the blood of every beast will I require at your hands." You would think with our word of wisdom, we would be some of the healthiest people in the world. Right? Well, there's a part of the word of wisdom that we ignore. And it is, like I said, unpopular.
Sparingly.
Eat meat sparingly in winter or in famine. I don't know about y'all, but we're not in famine right now, so we don't have that excuse. And we're approaching winter. I learned all this a little while back. I've had one piece of meat since last Thanksgiving. I prayed after Thanksgiving Day. I had my Thanksgiving Day. I went home and I said a prayer and I said, Lord, I want to do this. Please help me. My desire for meat was taken away from me. I feel better. I feel better. I have more energy. They talk about the protein. Oh, you can't live on just animals, just plants because you need all that protein. Look at that. 33 grams of protein to 34. It's almost equivalent. It's almost equivalent. There are blue zones. There's 5 blue zones in the world. One of them is in the United States, and a blue zone is an area where they find the most people who are over the age of 100 who are doing well. They're not in the nursing homes. They are living. They're socializing. They're dancing. They're driving. There was the area in the United States is Selma, California, and it is a population of 9,000 people, and they're Seventh-day Adventists. And I did not know that the Seventh-day Adventists have a health code like we do, but theirs is much like ours. Only it says no meat. And the Seventh-day Adventists, they also have a problem with this because a lot of them they will still eat meat, but the ones that do, their health is so much better. And I know on one study there was on a documentary that I watched about it. There was a 90-something-year-old man that was a cardiac surgeon in this area, doing great. He was still performing surgery. Still performing surgery at 90-something. I mean, he was with it and physically able to do cardiac surgery, which takes a while. You're on your feet. You have to have good hands. You have to have steady. He was able to do it on a plant-based diet. Like I said, I know that's not going to be the most popular thing that I'm going to say tonight, but it works. And a lot of our problems, I've been reading this book on the China study, which is a fantastic book about this, and it talks about how much plant nutrition heals the body and reverses a lot of the problems of affluence. They did these studies over 30 years. The NIH funded them. I think they gave 76 grants to do these research studies. Thank you. It's about time to stop. But we'll get the coconut oil out. And they did the studies in about those 30, 35 years, and they found the diseases of affluence were animal-based places. They were eating animal-based diets. There was a cardiologist in Massachusetts, I think it was, and he took some of the worst cardiac patients who had had surgeries and heart attacks, stents placed, all kinds of problems. Some of his worst patients, and he said, let's do a study. And he took them and he put them on an all plant-based diet. Within 2 years after they started, none of them were having any more heart problems. They could take x-rays, and without medication and without surgery, their arteries were opening back up. Plant-based will heal because that's what the Lord gave us to eat. He wants us to work on plant-based. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Now, I can tell you real quick what I brought.
Table.
If anybody wants to look at any of this stuff when you come up, that's fine. I just got this is what I have in my hands for emergency things. I've got bottles of different things that I use.
How long will those last?
They will, if you haven't been to a sink, they'll last at least 3 months. If you have been to a sink, they'll last longer. You can see on the bottom, it has it lasts forever. When you have a compress or a poultice on and you need to add heat to it to help keep the circulation pump here, these water bottles you can buy on Amazon. They work great. You just pour the hot water in there. It will keep the temperature constant for hours. But last time I had flu-like symptoms and I was cramping so bad, boy, I put some hot water in this thing and I went to bed with it. It helped me so much. You want to get you some of these for Christmas and hand them out to your family?
You need about 20 of them here.
And this is what I have for an herbal first aid kit at my house. I just grab this if somebody calls me and they say, come here, I need some help. I've got what I typically need in there. There's yarrow, activated charcoal, some lavender, cayenne pepper. You know what you need. Look at your basics. I've talked about what you need for basics. Anyway, that's what I got up here. So y'all are welcome to look at the books or whatever y'all here, and I'll see you the rest of the week.
A basic one that you would want, if you could only pick one that you would recommend.
I love, this is a Green Berets Guide to Emergency Medicine. Love, love, love this book. But now for beginner, I would say something like this one. Rosemary Gladstar. She's a great one.
There's a website that I use, it's called Earth Clinic, and it's got the natural remedies, if anything. So you pick your element.